The late afternoon sun was dipping low, casting long golden beams across the quiet suburban street when I first noticed it. My heart sank the second my eyes locked onto the hood of my 1967 Mustang Fastback. At first I thought maybe the sunlight was playing tricks on me, some reflection or shadow. But as I walked closer, my worst fear came true. The deep cherry red paint, polished to perfection just the day before, had been defaced with a long, jagged scratch, the kind that could only come from someone deliberately dragging a sharp object down the metal. I froze, staring at the wound carved into the car's hood. To anyone else, it might have looked like nothing more than an old vehicle scratched up by time or bad luck. But to me, it was something else entirely. That Mustang wasn't just a car. It was a piece of history, a legacy. My father had purchased it brand new after returning home from Vietnam, and it was the pride of his life until the day he passed. The Mustang was more than steel, rubber, and paint. It was the last tangible connection to him, a piece of family heritage I had sworn to protect. I'd spent countless hours restoring it. Every weekend, every late night after work, I had been under the hood or polishing the body, replacing rusty parts with original pieces, ensuring it remained true to its soul. The deep cherry red paint had been meticulously chosen, matched to the original factory shade. I had invested more sweat and love into that car than I cared to admit, and now in one cruel stroke of vandalism, someone had violated it. But I already knew who had done it. There was only one person in this neighborhood brazen enough to pull something like this: Karen. To everyone else, she was the president of the HOA, the so-called protector of property values. But to those of us unlucky enough to cross her, she was a tyrant. The type who loved power, who loved being the loudest voice in the room, and who loved reminding others that she had authority. And for weeks now, she had been targeting me. Her favorite phrase, one she loved to throw around at community meetings, was standards. She said my car didn't fit the standards of the neighborhood. According to her, the Mustang was an old eyesore, something that dragged down the modern aesthetic of the community. Never mind that my lawn was immaculate, my house freshly painted, and my property taxes paid on time. She had latched onto the car, using it as her excuse to harass me. At first, it was just words. Letters slipped into my mailbox demanding I remove the junk car. Warnings taped to my front door, snide comments at community events. But I ignored her because I knew my rights. She couldn't dictate what I did with my personal property, especially not something legally registered and insured. But Karen was the type who didn't take no as an answer. And now, staring at the fresh gouge across the Mustang's hood, I knew she had escalated. I leaned closer and noticed more details. Eggshell residue crusted on the windshield, the yolk dripping slowly down the glass. A half-empty bottle of cheap wine sat discarded on the edge of the driveway, as though thrown in some drunken celebration after the deed. My hands curled into fists as anger boiled inside me. I could practically hear her mocking voice in my head. "What's he going to do about it?" "Call the cops? Please. They'll laugh in his face." But here was the thing Karen didn't know. She thought I was just some stubborn neighbor who didn't bow to her HOA rules. She had no idea who I really was. She didn't know that by day, I wasn't just another face in the crowd. I was a federal agent, someone trained to deal with people far more dangerous than her. Someone who knew how to build airtight cases and bring them down with evidence they couldn't wriggle free from. And Karen had just made herself a case file. The temptation to storm across the street, pound on her door, and confront her right then and there burned in me. But I knew better. Emotion wouldn't win this fight. Evidence would. So instead of reacting, I got to work. That very night, I began setting up my own form of justice. Motion sensor cameras hidden in the bushes around my driveway. Small, discreet recorders by the mailbox. Extra lighting that switched on the moment movement was detected. Karen thought she was clever, thought she could act under the cover of darkness, but she had no idea she was about to step into a trap. Every morning after, I inspected the car. And sure enough, her campaign continued. A new scratch one day, a dent in the fender the next. Sometimes small rocks mysteriously appeared on the hood, like some childish warning. Each time the cameras caught her, creeping across the street in the middle of the night, glancing around, then striking. At first she wore gloves, clearly thinking about fingerprints. But she couldn't hide everything. The tilt of her head, the distinctive patterned robe she wore, the way she muttered to herself. My footage didn't just capture her actions, it captured her intention. And each night she grew bolder. It wasn't just vandalism anymore, it was obsession. She had become fixated on my Mustang as though destroying it would somehow restore her sense of power. What she didn't realize was that every time she lashed out, she was tightening the noose around her own neck. The breaking point came one stormy Thursday night. I had returned from a long day at the field office, exhausted, ready for nothing more than a hot shower in bed. But just as I was pouring a glass of water in the kitchen, I heard it. The sharp, unmistakable crunch of glass outside. My instincts kicked in instantly, and I rushed to the window. There she was, Karen, standing in the rain, her robe plastered to her frame, wielding a crowbar like some deranged villain. With each swing, she smashed it against the driver's side mirror, shards of glass scattering across the driveway. And the sound she made, a laugh, high-pitched and manic, echoed through the storm. I stood there in silence, my jaw tight, every muscle in my body screaming to run out and stop her. But I didn't move, because I didn't need to. My cameras were already rolling, capturing every second. The crowbar gleaming in the rain, her crazed expression, her muttered words. Let's see how he likes it now. When she finally tossed the crowbar into my recycling bin, as if mocking me, I almost laughed. She had just left her fingerprints on the weapon. The next morning, I didn't call the HOA. I didn't yell at her across the street. No, I made the call to people who mattered. My contacts at the bureau, the local PD who owed me favors. I filed the report, stacked high with irrefutable evidence, photos, videos, audio, fingerprints. An entire package tied up neatly with her name on it. Karen thought she was untouchable, shielded by her HOA title and arrogance. She thought the police would dismiss this as a neighborly dispute. But this wasn't just a petty fight anymore. This was criminal mischief, harassment, and destruction of property. And I had the proof to bury her. When I stepped outside that morning, she was already strutting down the sidewalk, barking orders at another neighbor about their lawn height, waving her HOA clipboard like a queen wielding a scepter. And when she saw me, she smiled, a smug, infuriating smirk, as if daring me to do something. I didn't smile back. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, calm and cold, because I knew something she didn't. Karen had just declared war. But what she didn't realize was that I was already 3 steps ahead, and this was one battle she couldn't possibly win. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. I had just returned from a long day at the field office when I heard the crunch outside. Sprinting to the window, I caught the sight of Karen herself, wielding a crowbar, smashing it down on the driver's side mirror of my Mustang. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the night, followed by her laughter, shrill and unhinged. She didn't see me standing there, watching, but my cameras caught everything. The rain glistening off the crowbar, the look of satisfaction on her face, the muttered words, "Let's see how he likes it now." That was it. I had enough evidence to bury her in legal trouble. But my training taught me patience. Instead of storming outside, I let her walk away, leaving her fingerprints all over the crowbar she had stupidly tossed in my recycling bin. The next morning, I filed the report, not just with local police, but with federal contacts who owed me favors. The vandalism was criminal mischief, destruction of property, and harassment. Combined with the evidence trail I had gathered, it was airtight. Karen strutted around the neighborhood that morning, barking orders about lawn heights and trash bins, completely unaware that her entire world was about to come crashing down. She even had the audacity to wave at me, flashing her smug smile as if daring me to retaliate. But retaliation wasn't my goal. Justice was. And justice, when done right, is colder than she could ever imagine. The day the officers showed up at Karen's doorstep, the neighborhood gathered like moss to a flame. She came out in her robe, hair in curlers, demanding to know why her police were bothering her. When the cuffs clicked around her wrists, her shriek could be heard 3 blocks away. Her face twisted with rage as the officers read her the charges. Vandalism, harassment, destruction of property, trespassing. The evidence I had collected rolled out like a movie reel. Videos, fingerprints, even audio clips of her muttering threats. Neighbors gasped, some in disbelief, others in satisfaction. Many of them had been her victims too, bullied by her abuse of HOA power. When her eyes found me in the crowd, they burned with venom. "You did this!" she spat,